Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chatting Pitch. I am Leslie Way.
And I am Matt Smith, aka Matthew D. Smith. Thank you for joining us. And Leslie, after last week's recording, which we haven't released yet, I haven't actually heard the audio, I am continuing to explore the best places to record. And I thought I'd try this tiny cupboard. I want to see, is there much difference from here to here? Is there any difference, I wonder?
There's a very minor difference. Yeah, there's a minor difference, but I don't want you to compromise the audio recording just being in a cupboard if that's not comfortable for you. You guys can't see this, but Matthew is currently he's going back and forth between his son's bedroom and what I can only assume is a cupboard for the board games.
Son's bedroom?
Yep.
Cupboard where we throw stuff that we don't really use. Son's bedroom? Crap cupboard.
Go back to the original room, I think.
Son's room.
Yeah. Just keep it best. It's good enough.
All right. I'm going to try somewhere else next week, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this.
So, last week's episode, we talked about nonsense, didn't we? A bunch of weird stuff.
We talked about the pastry patsy,
That's
Tom
right.
Hardy.
Yeah.
Making his sausage roll in the true story of Greg's. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, we sort of talk about movies and TV shows that we've watched recently. We might enjoy them, we might not. I'm just sorting out my mic here. Apologies for any silly noises. But then we'll spend some time pitching ideas to each other. And last week's episode was all about sort of product movies, wasn't it?
That's right. The brand movie. The movie branding that Hollywood seems to like doing a lot. So what we're doing this week is not that.
We're doing something that I think Hollywood has loved for quite some time now. Yep. Go on, Leslie, you introduce it. What's the name of the episode?
Well, I named it as a placeholder, but if we want to keep this, we can. I mean, there's no rules really. But the name of the podcast that I came up with was A-Pod-Calypse Now.
A-Pod-Calypse Now. I don't know why we set it up as a surprise, because whoever's listening to the podcast has evidently pressed on the thing that said Apocalypse Now. Surprise!
Or the name of the podcast is actually completely different, and in the description is the real title.
Oh yeah, we just don't know.
Either way,
we're crazy here at Chatting Pitch. Yeah. But when we say apocalypse, let's talk about what we've been watching recently, because we've been watching the same thing, haven't we, Leslie? What have we been watching?
We've been watching Cue the Jingle. We have been watching the same thing, although you've seen all of it and I haven't.
Yes.
I've only seen, I think, 4 episodes now. I watched episode 4 yesterday. And the series that we've been watching is the new Fallout series, which is based on the popular video game Fallout.
So what do you think so far, Leslie? I don't want to get into spoiler.
I think it's good. Here's the thing. I never played the games. And I don't have an affinity for post-apocalyptic shows or movies. I don't mind them. It's not my go-to genre of movie and TV. However, having said that, I think it's pretty solid so far. There's not really anything about it that I've been thinking, "Ooh, this doesn't quite work." Everything seems to be in its place. There's a little bit of confusion on my part because I don't really completely understand the lore. And without spoiling anything, there are a few things that haven't been fully explained yet, and I'm just trying to think, what is the deal here?
Okay, what
is the deal with post-apocalyptic TV shows based on video games?
I thought you were going to suggest that Jerry Seinfeld, even in the post-apocalypse, it's 200 years later, he's turned into a ghoul.
He's the ghoul.
Yeah.
No,
I got the power of it, but it just never.
What is the deal with vials? Which is a thing in this universe, which is one of the things that was kind of confusing for me. But no, you tell me your thoughts because you finished it. What do you think?
I thought it was really great in a lot of respects. I have written reviews for it, which can get a bit nitpicky because I think what it gets right is the difficult stuff. And then there are little bits where that's such an easy fix. Why have you left that in there? In terms of story.
Right.
Again, not to spoil, so I don't want to ruin it for you or anyone who's listening.
No, yeah.
But there's a character who happens to get through this big firefight, and it's almost they get through it just because they're a character that needs to.
Okay.
It's stuff like that where it's okay, you needed the plot to move from A to B, so you've forced it.
Is this in an episode that I haven't seen yet?
Yeah, you haven't seen it. It's one of the later ones, so I don't want to say.
Okay. So so far, putting it as vague as possible, I've gotten to a part where the main character has gotten to a situation where they have so there's good guys and there's bad guys. So this main character is a good guy girl.
Whoa, Leslie! Spoiler alert.
She is.
By the time this episode comes out, are we going to need to worry about spoilers? Because the whole thing would have been out. I mean, with this fast-paced modern world, Leslie, and the fact that all the episodes dropped at the same time, which I'm not going to get into. I'm not a fan of. I'm going to get into a rant about it. I'm just going to say I'm not a fan. But,
not a fan of binge watching things.
I'm not a fan of binge watching things, but I just think that it's. I mean, if you look at The Boys, or more recently, series finale of Shogun, two shows that released episodes week by week, and that meant that people were talking about it and joining in and experiencing it, pretty much at the same time as each other, and meant that it was still being talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Whereas I think Fallout, if you give it maybe a week or two, maybe even by the time this episode comes out, people will be thinking, oh yeah, I've watched that. What's the next thing?
Yeah. So I think from my understanding, and this is just completely guessing here, I have a feeling maybe Amazon Studios weren't fully on board with the success that Fallout would have been. So what they thought was, oh, this is probably going to bomb. Let's just put it all out and get it out of the way. And then to their surprise, it actually turned out to be quite good and everyone enjoyed it. And I think the only reason why they would stagger it is because they know that it's a property that people will enjoy. Now, I don't know if that was the same thing for Boys Season 1, because I actually watched that like maybe a year after it came out. I wasn't tuning in every week. So whether or not that was, I mean, if anyone out there knows whether or not Boys Season 1 was released episode week after week, then let us know in whatever comment section there is on whichever podcast listener you're listening to. So I don't know, but my understanding would be that they just didn't completely trust in the success that it would have been. And now that there's a lot of discourse about it, suddenly the latest game, Fallout 4, has the sales for that game has shot through the roof because people are replaying it now.
Yes.
And now they've renewed it for another season. So it's a studio thing, isn't it?
It seems a bit. I mean, they pumped a lot of money into it. You can see, I mean, you'll know that from watching the first 4 episodes, that there's a lot of stuff in there where you think, wow, okay, this is not a cheap show.
Yeah.
This is not like the original Star Trek cardboard sets and fighting people in rubber suits. This is big time. This is the prestige TV sort of levels of production, and I would say that's a bit I like. I don't know about you. You're more in tune with how that sort of stuff is made in terms of the
Do you think
visual
so?
effects and things. Well, more than I am anyway. I'm an idiot. I think that's something that it does do quite well.
I think to the untrained eye, there are certain movies and shows which you can tell whether or not something has been, done on the cheap or done with a big budget. And I think it's hard to tell because right now there's this real kind of like backpedaling of production where everyone thinks, oh no, CGI is bad now. You gotta go back and do everything practical.
Yeah.
And then they say, what was it? Recently there was this a video essay that got posted on YouTube where they were using the Matt Damon interview from Ford versus Ferrari, where he said there's no CGI, literally no CGI, everything's real. And then I don't know, maybe a few days later, the VFX company released like all the CGI that they did for that movie. Yeah. And it's like these actors, they think they know what they're talking about, and they're supposed to be the spokespeople for these productions.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's a sales pitch, isn't it? And perhaps they've been told, okay,
you have to check all these boxes.
Yeah, you might not know whether there's CGI in it or not, or maybe you do because you were in a VFX shop. But go out there and say, because I do think it is a very fashionable thing. I think it's almost in the wave of, I think maybe Chris Nolan movies were the first real mainstream ones where they started talking about, hey, we didn't overdo the CGI. I don't think he's never gone out from what I've seen and said there's no CGI. I think Chris Nolan is someone who's very much who will use it to supplement.
Yeah, he always says CGI is always an enhancement. I think I'm not sure of that. Don't quote me on here, but I think that's what he said. In a general sense, he said that he uses it as a tool. I think that's what he said, and it doesn't necessarily mean your movie is good or bad. Ultimately, it comes down to the story and the direction and the way the story's been told.
Yeah.
Having CGI or practical effects has nothing to do with how good the quality of the movie is. You can have a movie that's completely full of CGI and it still could be a pretty solid movie.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. It could be completely practical. It could still be a solid movie. But I just think a lot of people just think a lot of it is just to do with production, like aesthetics. Like I think I remember seeing people having a real big problem with the whole volume thing. Have you heard of the volume? Which
volume, as in like the size, too much water in that tank?
Yeah, that was the no, that's James Cameron. That's his thing. No, there's this piece of technology out there called the volume, which is essentially a big studio with a big LED screen that tracks the motion of the camera at the same time with the actors and the background. So when you move the camera, it moves the background. So no longer do you need to green screen things. You can just film it for real. And it was very popular during quarantine because they couldn't go out on locations. They couldn't travel. So what they did was, we'll bring the locations to us. But how can we do it so it doesn't look like it's green screen? So remember those good old days where you'll see someone sitting in the car and then they just projected something in the background and it's always really shaky or it's out of focus and stuff. Well, they've developed the technology where they can have loads of pixels and the pixels are so small that it's indistinguishable to the human eye. And I think the first instance that they used that was for The Mandalorian first season when they made it for, I don't know, the first episode, you'd be able to see it's being used in a good way. It was done in a way where like it was seamless. And then everyone took that technology and said, oh, we can do that with everything.
Yeah, and they did it with the Batman. Did they use that as well?
Potentially. I'm not sure. I can't keep track now. But I do know that they recently did it with another movie. No, it was a TV show. The Avatar The Last Airbender TV show for Netflix.
Right.
And there are people, I haven't seen it, but there are people saying like it's very noticeable now that they're using it. And whereas before it was supposed to be this groundbreaking technology that could enhance your movies. So it really doesn't mean like, I don't know what point I'm trying to get at here, but I think it's just that sometimes technology is great and sometimes it isn't, and it doesn't really make the difference whether or not it's a good movie or not. Turns out the Avatar series isn't that great.
But like you said, it's the story, isn't it? I mean, you could have conceivably someone stood in front of a blank wall with a microphone telling a story, and depending on if the storyteller is doing it well and if the story itself is good, it can still be fantastic, even if you're not showing anything.
Did you ever watch that? Did you ever watch that movie Lock with Tom Hardy?
Oh yeah, amazing film.
Case in point.
Yeah, it's just that's the one where it's him on. He's driving a very long way, isn't he? And it's just him making multiple phone calls.
Yeah,
different people, and you sort of put together the bits of the story from what he's saying. It's also done really well, where you have these films where you have two characters that know each other really well. And I might say, Leslie, as you know, you are an editor, and it will just that line will be used to let the audience know, oh, Leslie is an editor. Okay. But it's completely unnatural, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Locke does it really well, where you're putting together the pieces from what he's saying and who he's calling and how he's acting when it's really done. I mean, some people maybe, don't know, myself included, when I see Tom Hardy in these big blockbusters, I sort of think, is he really all that? But when Locke came out and it was just him in a car, amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was a real, I mean, you know that saying, show don't tell? They were doing that with dialogue, essentially.
Yeah.
They weren't showing you exactly what was going on, but everything was implied, and you got to figure it out as the story progresses. And they never explain everything. And I don't actually remember what the story was, to be fair. I think he was going through a divorce or something.
A lot of personal problems, but he was also trying to sort out this the job that he had. It was basically this massive contract that he had, and it had to be sorted within a certain time frame. But he also had to leave the site, so he's trying to coordinate things at his job. He's also trying to coordinate things with his personal life, and I think there's an affair or something that's going on as well, and that's why that's who he's traveling to, and he's trying to be truthful to his family, and he's trying to work things out as best he can, but on multiple fronts. It's a plate spinning thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that movie was the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, right?
Yeah. It just drove him to the brink. Someone rang him up and said, "Would you like some long distance insurance?" It was just too many plates to spin.
He was driving for so long outside, everything was just changing.
And he happened to have the Mad Max car anyway.
Yeah. So if you watch those movies back to back, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Anyway, you see what I did there? I tried to bring it back into the topic at hand with post-apocalyptic.
It was really seamless until you pointed it out. Well done.
Oops. Well, I guess that brings me to the next section. Well, I think wrapping things up, we went through a massive tangent about talking about storytelling, but essentially, Fallout was, you thought it was good, and it was also okay at parts.
It's one of those where I could look past just about the stuff that I didn't like, the contrivances in the plot and things like that. Others maybe might watch it and think, no, it's not for me. But there's definitely some really great stuff in it. I love the sense of humor of it, especially as it gets later on. I love the fact that the Ghoul character, you go back 200 plus years to when he was, he had a wife and a kid, and it was before the bombs dropped, and you sort of see how his life is going. And he does a fantastic job of having two, it's almost different characters, how he is.
That's what confused me, because I was thinking, like, there's no way that this man could have survived 200 years later. But then it wasn't really explained why he survived. So I thought maybe there is a reason behind that, which might be explained later on in the season.
I think it's explained. I think it's explained in the games, and it's not explained in the series.
Okay.
I have played a couple of the games. I think the idea is that the ghouls.
Oh, you have you?
Yes, yeah. I think the idea is that the ghouls are either immortal or they're like close to.
Okay.
Is
it anything to do with the radiation? Is it like a Godzilla situation? Where
I think it's like bombs dropped, blah blah blah, sciencey, science. Some people got turned into ghouls.
You know what was also confusing for me was because I thought the Fallout series was set in the 1950s, and then the bombs dropped, and then this is 200 years later, so 1950 plus 200, which would be 2050 or something like that, right? But that's not the case.
More, yeah.
It's actually what the people in the 1950s envisioned the future to be, and then the post-apocalyptic, well, post-bomb 200 years later is even further into the future, right? Is that what I'm assuming, or have I got this wrong?
I think you've lost me a bit there. I think it is. It's set in the 50s, and then it's.
But the thing is, it's not really set in the 50s, is it? Because when you count the amount of, apparently the bombs dropped in 2077 or something like that, so it's 2277, which is like the current timeline, which means it's what the people in the 1950s envisioned the future to be like. So, because remember in the past, before the bombs dropped, there were robots and stuff.
Yeah, just like the 1950s.
Around, right? Just like the 1950s. That's what my understanding is. Anyway, I'm sure we probably spoiled it for somebody now. But it hasn't spoiled it for me. I'm still watching it. I'm still enjoying it for what it is. But yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot more than Three Body Problem.
Oh yeah,
bring it back. I feel like that's going to be our.
So wait, I've just checked it. Yeah, so 1950s is the first timeline, with Walton Goggins as Cooper, his sort of more human-looking character, and then the Fallout show takes place just over 200 years after that. 300 years?
Oh, I thought it was 200.
I'm getting some different dates. In the show, it says 200 something years.
Doesn't matter. It probably doesn't matter, really.
The future. But it's quite an interesting concept because I like it that it's the future, but also humanity's stuck because no technological progress is really being made. But it's also almost a retro future because, like you say, when it goes to the previous timeline before the bombs dropped, it's not really the 50s. Like you say, there are robots and with Matt.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, I guess we can wrap that up there and talk about our own post-apocalyptic movie or TV show. I guess we can cue that jingle. And we're back. Okay, so do you have any ideas? Because I sure don't.
Well, first off, I think we need to decide which sort of apocalypse are we going to have. Because I know you said you don't like watching apocalypse shows; they're not really your thing.
It's not that I don't like watching them. It's more that it's not my go-to genre. I wouldn't be like, oh, I really fancy a post. I really fancy watching The Road right now, or like I really fancy watching whatever.
I'm really down. I'm just going to watch The Road with. I assume they just go down a road and have lots of fun and.
Yeah, I'm sure there is another one called The Road where it's just two bodies having a great time. But no, I do have post-apocalyptic movies that I really enjoy. Like I've got 2 copies of Mad Max Fury Road. One which is the original version, and the other one which is. Let me show you. Actually, I've got it right here. Give me 2 seconds.
This is scintillating for the listeners. Leslie is showing me a copy of Mad Max Fury Road Black and Chrome edition.
So it's like an edition where it's
Is the
color
disc,
corrected.
the disc made of steel?
That's right. It's one of those
You put it in and it
angle grinders.
Player. Yeah,
It's the angle grinder plate that you put in.
You have to
and
put on
all
a pair
you
of
hear
goggles
is just,
when you watch it.
And then you just hear a Tom Holkenberg soundtrack. The bow bow bow. Backstreet's back. I think
so let's decide what sort of apocalypse we have, because I think what they all have in common, and I think what people like about them, is that they'll watch them and they like to maybe have a bit of escapism, but at the same time imagine how they would react.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of the joy that I get, me and my wife are rewatching The Walking Dead at the moment.
Okay.
And apart
rewatching
from
it,
yes, rewatching it.
So you've seen all of it?
Oh yeah,
already. Oh, fan?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Last few seasons, maybe not. They're fine.
I got up to the what was the season with the town and the mayor? The guy with the eye patch, whatever his name was. The guy who was like, "I'm the mayor of this town." Yeah, that's as far as I got, and then I just kind of like stopped. The governor, that's it. Yeah. Okay. So what are you saying? You said you were rewatching The Walking Dead.
Well, I think some of the enjoyment we get is sure, watching it back and picking up on all the little details that you missed the first time, but also thinking about how would I really do in this situation.
Okay.
I mean, deep down, we all know within the first 5 minutes, I'd be eaten alive. But you like to imagine yourself, and I do think that there are some people out there who do say that they genuinely feel, oh, I'd love it if that happened, because then it would just be, everything would be reset to zero, and I could just do my No, you wouldn't enjoy it.
Like a psychopath.
You enjoy, yeah. You just want to hurt people. No, you enjoy the escapism of it.
Yeah,
it's a bit like playing. It's like playing the Fallout games. I'll spend a couple of hours imagining I'm in this post-apocalyptic wasteland. I don't actually really want to be there in real life. That'd be horrible.
It goes with a lot of things. Like the idea is better than the reality.
Yes.
Where it's like, I've had that before where I'm like, I, to put it in the most general sense, like I remember at one point I was thinking about getting on a dog, and I was thinking, I like the idea of having a dog, but I don't like the idea of walking it every day and picking up its poop.
I like the idea of having a dog. I just don't want to look after it.
Don't want to look after it, which is why some people go out and rent dogs for like a day, and they'll be like, "Oh, I can enjoy the." Yeah, you can do that. I think. Well, you can be a dog walker, couldn't you? It's essentially the same kind of situation.
Yeah,
and you get paid to like have fun with the dog for a little bit, but you don't have the responsibility of having to, clean up its poop or listen to its barking all the time. I mean, it's to each their own. Some people are like very much dog people. I just
having a dog is the same as living in a nuclear wasteland. I got all this stuff to do. Okay. All this walking. There's a lot of walking in post-apocalyptic TV shows and movies. So anyway, let's.
That's our idea. It's
the dog apocalypse.
The dog apocalypse. Dog apocalypse. Yeah. I think
because there's there's nuclear apocalypse.
There's nuclear, which is the textbook one. There's Kevin Costner's Waterworld. That's a different one.
Oh no, that's
where everything's just water. What else is there? I mean, is there anything that hasn't been done?
I was going to say there's the overused one, which is zombies. I don't think we need to touch that because that's been done to death.
Wait. So there's always so there's a setting, and then there's a inconvenience. So there's like, for instance, I don't know, in Mad Max, it's a big wasteland. That's the setting, loads of sand dunes.
Yeah.
But then there's also people who are crazy and drive cars, right? That's the plot.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's basically the
If
plot.
I was asked to describe Mad Max, yeah, you've got 10
And then
seconds to describe Mad Max. There's loads of sand and crazy people, and they drive cars.
And cars, yeah. But you think about like The Walking Dead, you've got like derelict neighborhoods, buildings, so another wasteland. But then the inconvenience is people are dead, but they're not, and they're trying to eat you.
That's a real inconvenience. I hate it.
Real inconvenience. So what would be our setting, and what would be our inconvenience?
You go the other way with it.
Yeah.
Which is, have you ever seen Last Man on Earth?
I have.
Which is an apocalypse, but it's just him for the first couple of episodes. Spoiler alert, he's not the last man on Earth. Surprise, surprise.
No. Surprise, surprise. Kind of like WALL-E. Similar premise, right?
Yeah.
The robot is voiced by Will Forte.
Yeah, if Will Forte was a robot.
Oh, God damn it, come on! He does that a lot, doesn't he? He pulls that face.
Oh, God. That show gets me thinking, what would I do if there weren't any inconveniences? If it was an apocalypse, I don't have any control over it.
Okay.
Because I love that scene where he's bowling, but he's setting up a bunch of fish tanks.
Yeah.
He drives his car into them or something like that.
No, he has all the bowling balls on the back of a pickup truck and he reverses them.
Yes.
And then they all
stops. And then
he stops it and then all the bowling balls fall out and then it smashes all the fish tanks.
And that fantastic shot where he's trying to get into a shop and the door's locked. So he's almost just bored. He just casually lifts his gun up, fires it, and just the glass smashes and he just walks through.
And there's like no running water, so he just uses a whole swimming pool.
Oh my God, yeah.
With a diving board with a hole in it. Yeah.
His pooping pool.
Yeah. So I mean, that idea has been done, and I think but there is a great idea in the sense that, you think outside of the box. What hasn't been done. So with post-apocalyptic movies or TV shows, it's always set on Earth, isn't it? It's always okay. Majority of the population has they cease to exist. It's like extinction, dinosaurs all over again. What if?
Are you suggesting we don't set it on Earth? We set it
in space,
higher up. Oh, I was going to say on the top of a high ladder, but yeah, space is good too. Let's do space.
Well, no. It could be in between space and Earth. It could be the skies. Post-apocalyptic sky battles. Top Gun Maverick, but it's post-apocalyptic.
Yes. So every so often they have to land to get food and fuel and things like that. But most of the time,
everything's in the skies. Has
that been
done?
That giant space tower in Ad Astra. You could have a bit like that. So you could have a bit of space, a bit of back on Earth. Oh, I like this. So every so often they have to make repairs to their space tower, so they have to journey.
Although, now thinking about it now, that's quite similar to the show Elysium, isn't it? But it's not really post-apocalyptic, is it? It's more of kind of like
that's more of a class. That's more of a class war thing, isn't it? Yeah, dystopian.
Yeah.
So what's our inconvenience? So when our heroes have stopped having sky battles,
there's something that's getting in their way.
Non-politically aligned enemy, like in Top Gun Maverick. Hang on
a second. Have you seen the movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's quite a similar concept now that I think about it, because they are in the skies in a thing. But I guess it's a different thing. I think Morgan Freeman's in that. He's one of the ringleaders of the post-apocalyptic land on Earth.
Okay.
So in a way that has kind of been done. However, we can just replace that with something else.
Maybe not space. Maybe we go like really old planes. So not like fighter jets or anything like that. You go really old school, like World War II fighter planes.
Yeah. And so this is our Fallout, but it's 1920s instead of 1950s.
So maybe for some reason they can't. We have to come up with a reason why they have to.
Oh, the ozone layer has broken out. The moon crashed. And now everything is stuck floating. Like there's no gravity.
There's no gravity.
So Earth is just here. Okay, here we go.
Go on.
Like the kids say, "Let me cook," because I'm cooking. You know, I'm cooking the pot. I'm stirring a pot. I'm making the meal.
Leslie, I've never heard that phrase. I'm 35 this year.
So am I. So I think what essentially has happened is maybe the moon exploded at one point.
Okay.
So the center of gravity in the Earth is completely skew with.
Okay.
So everything is kind of floating, right? That's as far as I've gotten.
So just like Fallout, the moon explodes. Science.
And then
why does the moon explode?
Because there's no gravity now. Oh, why does the moon explode? Asteroid.
Classic.
Or maybe they tried to attempt a moon landing, but somebody forgot to unload the nuclear bomb. Yeah, they forgot to put the brakes on, and they flew straight into that moon.
And they accidentally had a nuclear bomb with them. Oh, it's supposed to bring twiglets, and
that's right.
Accidentally brought on some uranium. Bang!
That person was Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. He's like, the twiglets, Gromit. The whole movie is claymation. The whole movie's claymation. No. So what happened was, someone exploded the moon somehow. Center of gravity's gone. Everything's floating. And because gravity is no longer a thing, it doesn't make humans short anymore because no one's pushing us down. So humans are now suddenly very tall.
Oh, okay. Super long.
Super long. Let's just think about this. This is like years and years into the future where humans have evolved to be very, very tall.
Okay, so we're talking at least 8-9 years in the future.
But like in the people who we're following, the main protagonist, or it could be like a band of people, who knows, a community, they are in their own little bubble in space / ozone layer, in their own little spaceship, where they have the cabin pressure. They've developed the idea of having cabin pressure. So they want to like feel like how they used to be 200, 300, 400 years ago, except for everyone else who've become these monstrosities which stretch.
Oh, okay. So this is a group of people who have managed to stay in this cabin pressure
human form,
cabin pressure gravity. So they're a bit more like us.
Yes, a bit more like us.
Meanwhile, on Earth and floating around Earth, there's a bunch of monstrosities that have sort of carried on living in their way, but have evolved to be really
tall. Yeah. So I think maybe because they can't control gravity anymore, they have to do everything in their power to avoid these tall people.
But every so often, these tall people are grabbing at them out of the sky because they've got big hands. How tall are we talking? Are we talking like kaiju big?
We're talking kaiju big, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought you meant like 7 foot.
Oh, because gravity doesn't exist, they can just jump very high up, and then they're almost they're almost like aliens from the movie Alien. But
so you could say mini kaiju size, Godzilla Jr. But they can jump really high as well.
Yeah, we can't ever. What's the altitude that planes are at?
Very high.
Very high altitude. Yeah, you can never go below that. It's like speed. You can't go under 30.
What happens if they go underneath that level?
Well, they get eaten by the tall monsters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm guessing these tall monsters, their food chain is other humans that are smaller than them.
Okay. So there are other communities as well in the sky that they can come across.
Potentially, I haven't thought that far ahead.
And maybe they have to go down to Earth every so often still.
Yeah.
So they have to drop down to the land of the kaijus and do some floating. But because the budget for that episode is really massive, then we'll just have a third episode where they're just in their spaceship talking about, I don't know, their problems. We'll have a lot of flashbacks. Here's how life used to be on Earth.
Yeah, that'll make it easy. So
although it wouldn't be them, because it would be their ancestors, wouldn't it?
I guess so.
Maybe we could make it slightly comedic and have them talking about, here's what the history books say, but they get it completely wrong. So you have like Hitler on his iPhone, like making a speech, not in front of a crowd of people, but it's
making a long distance FaceTime call.
Yeah.
to Eva Braun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So history is no longer accurate anymore. So we've got these textbooks that people have it's kind of like that Beatles 3000 sketch from YouTube.
Excellent.
Where they've taken like scraps from different textbooks and put them together. Okay, so we've got that. That's the setting. Okay, who's our main character going to be?
Okay, I think we need a group here, but yeah, you always do need a sort of main character, a leader type, I guess.
Okay.
Do we go for action hero or do we go for everyman? You know,
let's do the everyman.
Do we go Tom Cruise or do we go Will Forte?
Well, here's the thing: the action man is kind of like a slow dying breed now. You don't really get them much anymore. Big boom in the 80s and 90s with your Jean-Claude Van Dammes and your Arnold Schwarzeneggers, but now it's more about nuance, it's more about being real and having your Timothy Chalamet's or your whatever they are.
I'm going to punch this guy, but I'm going to feel really sad about it. Sure, I get
who's the most popular actor right now? It's got to be either Timothy Chalamet or something else, right?
He's got to be up there.
He's up there. You got Jake Gyllenhaal's. He did Roadhouse recently, which we were supposed to talk about last week and we didn't.
And Zendaya, she's in a new film coming out, and she was just in Dune Part 2,
along with Mr. Willy Wonka himself. Remember that movie?
I was just imagining
Gene
Wilder doing like a roly poly down the desert sands. He just keeps doing a really long roly poly.
Yeah.
And it just
lands perfectly.
Yeah.
Apparently that was
giant
almost
sandworm behind him.
Wasn't that like Gene Wilder said that almost wasn't in the movie because they didn't want him to do that. They said why would he walk all the way front without saying anything? Like the idea was that he wanted to make sure that he was this mysterious character that people didn't know whether he was telling the truth or whether he was lying.
Yeah.
That's still a classic. I think to this day that's my favorite adaptation of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't think I ever watched the Johnny Depp one. Did you? I
saw snippets of it.
Yeah. I think I'd rather not. Anyway, moving on. So we need an actor or actress.
So does Willy Wonka get the chocolate from the sandworms? Or is he now adding sand to his chocolate?
No, this is part of the textbooks that they have.
Okay. Willy Wonka they're after Willy Wonka's factory. That's the quest.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know that it's a chocolate factory. They just know that it's a factory and it's a wonderful haven.
Okay.
Dunka Diddy Land.
So I'm just trying to think about what the point of the story is.
That's the overarching plot. They're trying to find Willy Wonka's factory.
Okay. So
and each episode maybe has something different, to like a subplot to deal with.
Is this the sequel to the Wonka movie that Timothy Chalamet just recently did?
This is Wonka Part 2. Sure. Oh no. We're treating it as the real world.
Okay, we're treating it as a real world.
Is a fictional character, but they don't know that because they're reading books and thinking, is this a history book? Is this non-fiction or fiction? And somewhere along the line, maybe they don't have the book anymore, but they have stories told by word of mouth down the generations. And it's turned from Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, hey, isn't it a fun fiction story? And it's turned into Willy Wonka is a godlike figure and has a utopia somewhere on Earth that has gravity, doesn't have any stretchy kaijus.
And that actor is played by, give me a number between 1 to 12.
Oh, we're doing this again. 7.
7?
Is this our main character?
This is our main character. Number 7 is going to be...
So the leader of the group, we're going for every man. Who's number 7?
Apparently, I'm on screenrant.com, the 12 best actors working today.
Oh, I hate these lists so much.
Yeah. And number 7 is Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Do you think he would do it? I think he would do it.
I think he would do it, yeah. And then let me type in.
I don't know if he's the everyman we're after, though, Leslie. He's great, but...
I'll tell you what is number 12, though, who I quite like, Daniel Kaluuya.
Oh, yeah.
He could work.
Yeah.
He could work.
Mm.
You know?
So he's our leader. Maybe we could have an episode where an action man comes along.
Mm-hmm.
And
who's played by Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, sure. I wouldn't say he's necessarily action star. He's just uber cool star.
Why don't we have a... Fine. You know, June has done the thing where it's like the poster boy and girl is Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet. So why don't we have a poster boy and girl for this one? So we've got Daniel Kaluuya, and then give me a number between 1 and 100.
What's this? Screen grants. No. Who knows?
This is IMDb's 100 best actresses today.
Okay. Is it going to be Helen Mirren? Number 94.
She hasn't been in anything for a while. Amy Smart. Do you remember her?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about
with the ages?
Yeah,
I don't remember. To be together?
Well, actually, you know what? Give me a number between 1 and 10. That'll narrow it down.
4.
Alexandra Daddario. Do you know her?
Okay. Yeah, she was in an episode of Always Sunny.
She was in... what was that movie where the
Charlie Day's character tricks her?
That's right. She was in this movie where the whole world was falling apart. San Andreas with The Rock.
Okay.
She played The Rock's daughter.
Okay, I never saw that.
That was a silly movie. That was basically every Roland Emmerich film.
Well, that's an apocalypse happening, so she will have experience, won't she?
Yeah. Why don't we? Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Let's just have those two, and then what happens?
And Samuel L. Jackson is part of their group.
Okay. So amongst all of this, there's Big Daddy Longlegs walking around. That's the name of the movie, Daddy Longlegs.
Big Daddy Longlegs.
Big Daddy Longlegs. No, we need to have a good name for the movie. What's the name of the movie? Because there's the key points. They're in the skies. There's tall people walking around.
Mm-hmm.
There's no gravity. The moon has exploded.
Okay. Willy Wonka's Ozone Factory.
So this podcast episode is called A-Pod-Calypse now, Willy Wonka's Ozone Factory.
And that's how the sausage gets made, ladies and gentlemen.
And how does it end?
What, the movie or the series? I picture this more as a series.
It's a series. How does the series end?
How does the series end? I think you have
to get to the Willy Wonka factory.
I think you have to end.
It turns out it's just a Cadbury's.
No, it's not a Cadbury's. They turn up and it's that cheap Willy Wonka experience.
The Glasgow Willy Wonka experience.
Someone comes out and it's the unknown and
what is that? It's the unknown. That's Daniel Kaluuya's last final line.
I think maybe you have to end on a downer, but tease that there's something else they could aim for. So they get down to earth and they find that Willy Wonka's. Yeah, maybe they get there and it is just a Cadbury's. I prefer Mars.
No, we like the whole Willy Wonka Glasgow experience to be the ending, but then we expand with that lore, and it turns out AI has taken over the world, and that's what their idea of a Willy Wonka factory would be.
Okay, so are you saying that it's almost like a bunch of animatronics are now recreating that terrible Willy Wonka experience? And
right.
then the opening of season 2 is where they have to fight through that.
You know what would be a really interesting concept, which I don't know if it's been done before, is that you know how AI is right now, where it's not great, but it's still doing interesting things.
Yeah.
And everyone hates it, right? What if AI never got past that point? And it's all just
so it's
really
still nonsense
rubbish AI. Still
Yeah.
nonsense AI, yeah. And that's why everyone's tall.
Because AI made the no gravity.
Yeah. That's why they crashed into the moon. Because they tried to use ChatGPT to fly into space.
Yeah. Oh, we've lost navigation, can't see out the windows. The pilot's like, ChatGPT, land us on the moon. ChatGPT says, okay, buddy. And they land on the moon.
Yeah. That's the name of that episode 1. ChatGPT flies us to the moon.
That's the flashback.
Well, I think
we got a great TV show there.
I think we've got a very.
Who think's going to want this? I think this is going to be a Netflix or an Amazon thing.
Yeah. If anything, I think Amazon will probably take it because there are some absolutely atrocious pieces of TV shows and movies up on there. I came across the most odd thing on Amazon the other day on Amazon Prime, and it was an AI retelling of the Twilight series, and somebody has ran the idea of Twilight through an AI generator and got an AI host to talk about what they think the Twilight series is, and all the images are all AI generated. And I was just thinking, who is this for? Like, is this supposed to be funny, or is it supposed to be... I didn't understand what it was.
Yeah, because I suppose people that aren't interested in Twilight and haven't seen it, well, they're not going to watch this.
Well, they might watch it.
Fans of Twilight, well, they've already seen Twilight.
Yeah.
Fans of the books?
I reckon it's that same guy who did the Willy Wonka thing.
But also, not even in terms of who's the audience. Sure, there might be an audience for it, out of curiosity, I guess. Some vague curiosity of what has this machine done with the original story. But why?
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the point in it existing? What does it add?
Anyway, thank you for listening.
We've ended on a bit of a hungry note there. I apologize.
No, I like it. I like the fact that we could end with us questioning, what's the point in existing?
What's the point in this? What's the point in that thing existing? We're the only podcast that ends really angry. We're Chatting Pitch, and we're going to leave you with a sense of despair, emptiness, and anger. Like and subscribe.
Cue the outro. There, we're done.
Done.
I'm going on break. All right, I'm going to stop this.
My planet needs me.
Chatting Pitch has been brought to you by Leslie Way and Matthew D. Smith. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to listen to others and maybe even subscribe. You can follow us on the website, formerly known as Twitter.
Listen to us on Spotify or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Leslie and Matthew have their own side hustles as well. Feel free to check out Leslie's YouTube channel or Matthew's Medium blog. Links in the description. If you want anything else, we might have other links in the description if we think of anything interesting to add. Thank you for listening. I love you.